Hi, welcome to week 5. You've made it all the way to week 5, and you're almost done. By now, you're probably overwhelmed by all that you've seen in this Blackboard course, but you'll have access to this course for a long time, so you can go back and review. I know Liz and I keep going back, looking at 4 and 5. There's just so much in there, and you're going to see a bunch today. Some that won't be really relevant, but I guarantee you when you start using the system, you'll go back and you'll say, maybe I need to look at the part about rubrics or something like that, and I think it might make a difference. But for right now, start small. And I've had a lot of conversations with people. The system's only going to work for you if you take kind of baby steps and don't worry about all of the more technical things and just focus only on what you can do and what's going to make a difference in your class. And that brings me to this screencast today and what we're going to try and take a look at. We're going to focus on how this system can make a difference now that we're all kind of speaking the same language with Blackboard and learning management systems, blended learning. What's this going to do? So the only problem is we've made it this far in the course, but now I've got to issue a pedagogy alert. Okay, that might have been a bit much, but the pedagogy alert was issued because we're going to talk about how this is going to make a difference in your classroom. But that's the big question, right? Why did I learn this? Why does something like this matter? And I really wanted to kind of pin down concretely why this makes teaching better. Why should I flip my class? What does this do for my students? What's the research say about this? Am I just wasting my time? And these are legitimate questions that I wrestled with, and I found an interesting study. It goes all the way back to the 80s, long before anything like a learning management system was ever invented, and it's based on the work of Benjamin Bloom and his 2 sigma problem. And that's what I'm going to explain to you today. And once I came across this, it really kind of just crystallized everything. I said, yeah, this makes a difference, and here's why it makes a difference. So I'm going to share this study, his research for you from the early 80s, and I think it might help you as well in terms of better understanding why we're learning this. So here we are. Why did we learn this? This is fascinating to me, and it really made a difference in terms of how I view using blended learning and a learning management system to facilitate that. So here's the work of Benjamin Bloom. He set out with a team of graduate students to first chart what was the most effective type of instruction. Not surprisingly, for those that pay for tutors for their students, so they found one-on-one instruction had the greatest impact on student learning than any other type of instruction. You have 3 that are charted here. Conventional instruction, which is your typical 1-on-30, where one teacher teaches via direct instruction and then issues students summative assessments occasionally. You have something that's called mastery learning, which has kind of a 1 standard deviation difference between conventional learning, and that is some direct instruction, but also a lot of formative assessments given to students with consistent feedback given as well, kind of like corrective action. But you could see here this huge increase in student performance if they are tutored one-on-one or even one in small group. And this is what he started to refer to as the 2 sigma problem, because you have students that are doing better, 2 standard deviations or a sigma better than conventional instruction if they're tutored. So 2 sigma problem. What he said was, I want to find out how we can improve student performance without funding 1 teacher for every student, which would be impossible to support. So how can we do this? How can we change our teaching to facilitate other strategies or even an increase in one-on-one instruction? And that's his 2 sigma problem, and he set out for many years to research how something like this could be done. So in other words, students here, your average student tutored one-on-one outperforms 98% of all students who are taught in using conventional instructional methods. You see that mastery learning has about a 1 sigma difference. So still very good, and that's why you focus on formative assessments and immediate feedback, and that's something that's a small thing that you can do in your class that makes a huge difference, but nothing like one-on-one instruction. That tutored students' abilities to problem solve, apply principles, analyze, and be creative, or what Bloom called their higher mental process achievement, was also 2 standard deviations above the control students when all the research was done. So here's what Bloom listed. They basically went and started to research, okay, if I do something like peer tutoring here, what change does this do? How does this improve student learning? And you can see it does have a, significant improvement over not doing something like that. Up here, you see where you have 2 standard deviations or 2 effect sizes greater than not doing it with one-on-one instruction. Then you can see things like feedback, corrective feedback, use of formative assessment, reinforcement, classroom participation. So they literally charted everything. What they found is that nothing can be as effective as one-on-one instruction. Now, this doesn't mean that all we're going to do now is one-on-one instruction, but it really changed the way I thought about how we use a learning management system. So, what does all that stuff mean to me, personally, as a teacher, right? What it means to me is that a learning management system, blended learning, can allow me to reallocate my classroom time for things that have a greater degree of efficacy than direct instruction. And I use direct instruction. I still love a good lecture, I'll be honest. But I think, we talk about flipped learning, and you hear about, buzz things like that, and here's why something like a flipped model can work at times in your class. Because I might, if I can put this somewhere else, then I can reallocate my classroom time for something that I know has a higher degree of efficacy than that direct instruction. And it doesn't necessarily have to be one-on-one. It could be small group interaction. It could be peer review. It can be all of those things. So the learning management system enables you to organize your content in a manner that helps facilitate things like flipped learning or document retrieval for students or presentations so they can go through them at their own pace. It's really, the blended learning model is really rethinking what we are actually doing in the classroom. And to me, that had a profound impact, because if I were to go back in time, I would do so many things differently. I would really reallocate based on Bloom's kind of hierarchy of things that he knows works, with the goal of more one-on-one instruction. I think we can all see the benefit of sitting down with a student one-on-one or one-on small group to talk about writing as they're going through that writing process, to review a math problem with students as they're working through that math problem. And those things are all impossible to do if I'm standing in front of the room teaching to 30 students. Not saying that that model is bad at times, it's not. But I would rethink how I use my instructional time. And it could be a small thing. I don't have to make as many photocopies anymore. I don't have to run and find papers for students. It's all cataloged in an intelligent manner on a learning management system. Students can easily navigate where everything is. And for me, that's been the big aha moment. Reallocating classroom time. That's it. And a learning management system like Blackboard enables you to do that. So that's my big takeaway. And it is supported by the research in terms of showing what works in a classroom. What do people think is the most effective model? Consistent formative assessment, corrective feedback, one-on-one instruction. Those are tried and true methods that really do work. That's very difficult to do and pull off in kind of an industrial education model, where we're kind of moving a lot of students around with a relatively high student-teacher ratio. It's hard, but that's the power of the learning management system, and I hope you found this beneficial in terms of helping to understand how I can use something like this with my students.